Morning, everybody. How are you doing today? I'm meant to be going to work, but I thought before I go, I'm going to share this with you guys because as I was doing my quiet time and spending time with the Lord, he was talking to me about the power of the mouth and how oftentimes we use our mouths to destroy our own homes, and the seeds that we have sown with our mouths that are bearing fruit years later, and we don't even realize that we did it ourselves. And then I started thinking and remembering some of the things that I used to say to my husband and some of the things I used to do. And so I thought I'm going to come on and share with you guys and tell you guys my story of how I had to really learn fast to watch my mouth and the things that I say. So some time back, particularly early in marriage when we first got together, and you know, those early ages where you don't realize that you're one. You're kind of like, I'm going to defend my corner and he's going to defend his corner. And you're kind of like on two corners of the boxing ring. That's what we were kind of like. So we were fine and we could have great times. But when we got to arguing, I was going to go in. My mouth was like a tornado. I would rip him to pieces. Like, he'd just say one, I'd be on 5, 6, 7, 8 before it'd even finish. But the terrible thing is that I would say things like, you're useless, you're pointless, you're a waste of space, I don't know what you're doing here, I don't need you. I would say things like that. And I never really, I'd say them out of anger. And yeah, I'd say them out of anger, and I never really considered the power of what I was saying. I never really considered the effects that these words were having on him. From my point of view, we're in an argument, we're going at it, I'm going to fight. Do you know what I mean? And it's the survival of the fittest, you know, who can say the most things. And, you know, he used to sit and just be quiet. That was his thing. He would sit and just be quiet. And it was like the more he was just quiet, the more angry I would get. And I would just be saying all these things to him. And I really, and you know, I think because they're men, we feel like they can just handle it. I did not know that I was destroying him. I did not know that I was destroying our home until this happened. He started to have an illness, and you know, men, they don't pay attention to it for a long time, and it started to get worse until one day it got, you know, quite serious. So we went to the hospital. I took him to emergency, and while he was at emergency, they drugged him up. Like, they gave him so many drugs. He was in cuckoo land, so drugged up. But it was in this drugged up state that he began to talk. So remember, all this time, and you know, men, they can be a little bit, you know, hidden and closed in. They don't often tell you how they're really feeling and how the effects of what you're doing and saying to them is having on them. So it was in this drugged up state that he began to speak and speak openly. And I was shocked that all the words that I have said over him, he remembered. And they were being regurgitated over and over in his mind. You're useless. You're a waste of space. I don't need you. You know, you're a fool. You're this, you're that. Going over and over in his mind, affecting him on a day-to-day basis. And he told me all that. He told me all the things that I'd said to him, when I'd said them to him, how they'd made him feel in his own home. And it was that day that I realized, wow, I am actually a woman tearing down her own home. I was not the example of the wise woman that buildeth her home. I was the example of the foolish one that tears down her home with her own hands. Then, when we're home and I'm looking at him and he's behaving in a certain way and he's distracted and not fully there with me in the house, I'm wondering why. Why would he be? I've been continually telling him, you're useless, you're a waste of space, I don't need you, you're useless, you're a waste of space, I don't need you. Who would feel comfortable in that environment? Who would rise up as a man in that environment? Who would do that? You know? And so sometimes the fruits, be they positive fruits or negative fruits, whatever fruits we are enjoying or not enjoying now, Sometimes they're the seeds that we sowed with our mouths years back. Because then it took time to then begin to rebuild and undo the damage that I'd done. I had to really learn how to, in anger, withhold my tongue and not allow anger to make me sin and speak over my own husband, who is the head of my house. Now listen to this. If I knock down the head of my own house, it doesn't even make sense. The head of my house, I myself knock it down, destroy it, tell him he's useless. Then what house have we got? We haven't got a home. My job is to tell him, you are great. You are wise. We need you. We depend on you. You are up to the job. You can do it. God has blessed you. You're a strong man. You know, that's the sort of words I say over him now. And that's why I have the husband that I have now. As I switched that negative approach and I began to speak over him. I'm going to do a separate video on that, on how I began to positively and actively speak positive things over my husband, things that are based on the word of God, things based on the promises of God in his life. That's what I'm meant to be. A help me. A help me isn't just cook for him and clean for him. A help me is building him up, helping him to build the home. I wasn't doing that. I was actively destroying the head of my home, therefore actively destroying my own house. The power of life and death is in the tongue. The power of life and death of your marriage is in your tongue. You can kill it very, very easily. You can kill it. And then complain that, oh, he doesn't do this. Oh, he doesn't do that. Oh, he's not attentive. Oh, he's not man enough. He's not strong enough. He doesn't, you know, he can't hold the house. Well, he can't because you keep telling him that he can't. You keep telling him that he can't, and in fact, your life is better without him. You know, we have to stop using our eyes and start to speak in faith. Call those things that aren't, even if he isn't right now. Even if he isn't right now. Even if he isn't living up to being that priest in the home and being the head of the home. You know, these things are a learning process. Oh, this is another video on its own. These things are a learning process. A lot of the times it takes time and experience and a journey to grow into being a true man of the house, to grow into being a priest of the home. You know, it doesn't happen like that. A man just doesn't get married and he's suddenly, but I'm the priest and he knows what to do. You have to give him space to grow. And in that time while he's on his journey and he's growing, you don't pull him down and disrespect him and taunt him because he's not quite there yet. You keep telling him he can do it. You can do it, babe. We trust you. We rely on you. We know you can get there. I know you can get there. I know you're a great man. You're a wise man. You're a strong man. It may not look like it right now, but I know God has planted something in you. And you encourage him. Don't do what I did. Do not do what I did. All right, guys, I've got to run because I've got to go to work, but I wanted to share that with you guys. It's so important. And please do share this video with women that you think need to hear this. It's time that we are open and honest with ourselves and know where we ourselves, you know, us women, we're very quick to be like, he doesn't do this, he did that, he said, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you have to look at yourself and be like, wait, what have I done to cause this in my own home? For me, my mouth. It was my mouth. And I really thank God that he taught me about that early enough for me to make a change and make a difference. All right, guys. God bless you. And I'll see you soon. Bye.